The Ending Pain mod just dropped recently, and it actually has a lot of lore to it. So I'll start off by explaining the creepypasta that the first part of the mod is based on, and then I'll give you the backstory for all the other characters that we find in the mod as well. Now, as many of you probably already know, the first part of this mod is based on a creepypasta called The Grieving. The story revolves around a young man that was watching Cartoon Network one night, and he saw that there was a new episode of The Amazing World of Gumball coming out. And since the boy had nothing better to do, he decided to watch it. It turns out that this episode was nothing like the original show. Even the artwork and character designs were different. And just like in the mod here, the episode starts with Gumball actually crying in the corner of a classroom. We find out that the reason that he's crying is because both of his siblings were actually murdered and their bodies were found out in the forest. And in the end, he also ends up taking his own life because he can't deal with all the pain and grief. We later learned that the original creator of this episode tried to bury it so that no one could ever see it. They had created it to make fun of a co-worker that had lost his son to the attacks of a serial killer, which is beyond messed up to begin with. And I guess at some point the creator stopped being jerks and realized that they could never actually show this, probably for their own reputation and because, as I said, it's just a scandalous, despicable thing to do in the first place. Now, unknown to them though, apparently the serial killer that took out their friend's son ended up getting a hold of this tape somehow and was able to get it to air on Cartoon Network, basically traumatizing the main character of the story and of course the father if he's ever unlucky enough to see this video be published. Now the next song is called Duplicity Sonata, and this character here is called Chi-Chi, and he's actually from the Amazing World of Gumball, an episode called The Copycats. And if I remember correctly, this character is basically just copying everything that Gumball does, even down to like the whole family dynamic.
You want to copy? Well, copy this!
The one major difference obviously being that they're like a family of goats, and I think their version of Darwin is a frog instead of a fish. The next character is called Mononice, I believe is how you pronounce it. You can also call him Circle Guy. And a lot of people think that he's like some type of urban legend or that he was some type of character that was edited into episodes of The Amazing World of Gumball. But in actuality, I think he was a character that was supposed to be in the actual series in the beginning, but he ended up being taken out for one reason or another. Some people say that he was supposed to be like a evil character, and when you look at him, he does kind of look evil in a cartoony kind of kiddie way. And I think this is why in the FNF mod, they're trying to make him look kind of scary. And I mean, you have to admit, if you were like a 7-year-old, he might actually be a little bit scary. The next character on the list is Gumball.exe, and this character is obviously based off Sonic.exe, but apparently he's specifically from like a web game called Scratch, although I wasn't able to find much information on Scratch like when I was on YouTube and Google, so maybe if you have more information, you can put that down in the comments. And I know a lot of people actually thought that this was like a Pibby reference, but when you look in the background, it is definitely Sonic.exe, like the original Sonic game that you probably watched Markiplier play when you were a kid. And if that isn't enough to convince you, they literally have the chase scene here, but it's just Gumball obviously chasing Darwin instead of Sonic chasing Tails. All in all, I was kind of happy to see a Sonic.exe reference again, because even though Sonic was really popular in FNF a while back, you start to see him like less and less as of recent. Next on the list, we have Explosi Gumball and Explosi Boyfriend, and they were both made by the YouTuber called Explosi. Now, this version of Boyfriend is specifically from the video called Swag Jam Saturday. While the version of Gumball is from the video called Darwin Eats Gumball Cereal. And even though these characters are technically from two different videos, it seems like in the mod, the developers just put them all into the video called Darwin Eats Gumball Cereal. And instead of having Darwin there, they actually just replaced Darwin with Boyfriend, making it to where Boyfriend is the one that took the cereal and will eventually be eaten by Gumball. And if this sounds like a weird explanation, it's because it is a super weird video. If you have the time, I definitely recommend checking it out just for the trippiness of it. This next character is called El Gordo or Gordo299, and from my understanding, this is actually based on a character on YouTube where he just criticizes like different topics. Now, my Spanish is pretty trash, so I don't actually know what he's saying, but in the titles it usually says criticize in some which way or form, so I'm assuming that's what he's doing. The last character on the list is going to be Dark Gumball, and this character is actually originally from a comic, but you probably know him from the YouTube video called Dark Gumball Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. It basically shows the comic that Dark Gumball is from, but while the comic is playing, it has this song called Wolf in Sheep's Clothing blasting in the background. I don't know if the band called Set It Off is still popular, but they are the ones that made the song, which obviously I can't play because YouTube would copyright strike this video. But basically in the comic, we see that Darwin betrays his brother, and then Gumball basically gets like these dark powers once he realizes that he's going to have to take out his brother if he wants to live. And even though it kind of ends on a cliffhanger, the FNF mod did a good job of like showing the forest in which they fought. And also showing the fact that Gumball like gains the ability to fly, and now he becomes like some type of warlock, having those blue flames coming out of his hands. It was a pretty cool concept, and at some point I might actually go see if there's any more to the comic, because I would like to see how it ends. But with that being said, that's the final character in this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to check out this video on the screen here. Subscribe today to become a member of the Orseofkorse, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Peace, peace.